I'm recording. Oh, I didn't ask if anyone wanted to not want to be recorded, but now we're recording.
It's
Okay.
fine with
You're
me.
you're fine.
I don't know what kind of legally I'm bound to do now. So, hey, everybody, here we are. I just wanted to get a quick Creature Cantina meeting here for anniversaries coming up. So we're saying hi for the anniversary. How's everybody feeling about the state? Let's ask first the state of Star Wars and then the state of collecting. What's the state of Star Wars? Because we haven't met like this in whew, like
Year or
Mandalorian
two.
season
Yeah,
two.
it's been a while.
It has been a while. So in that time, what would be you consider the state of Star Wars at the moment?
Well, I would say I think that they're doing a bang up job with the TV series. Um, they're far surpassing what they've done with the Disney movies as such, with the exception of Rogue One. I really like Rogue One, but the TV series are really good. And I'm not going to try and spoil anything for everyone, but I've watched the first three episodes of the last season of Bad Batch, and I'm very impressed with the dramatic way they're going with it.
So that's very positive on TV.
Mm.
And I still have, but it's like another movie's come out there since last time we met. But you feel like the lingering wounds over the sequel trilogy, it sounds like.
I just didn't enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it. It felt like they were just rehashing the original trilogy, only episode seven was episode four, but bigger.
Yeah.
Episode eight was episode five, but backwards. And episode nine was just National Treasure with episode six tacked on at the end when they realized, oh crap, we have to finish this up quick.
Yeah. But you don't, but you feel like the TV shows have gone in new directions because you were saying you're enjoying those more. You feel like there's a more original or at least going in different spaces Star Wars has gone before.
Well, I don't think it's so much that they're going in new directions. I like the fact that they're going back to some of the quote unquote expanded universe stuff that was out before.
Okay.
Not to give away any spoilers or anything, but I've seen some stuff crop up in the TV shows that I really used to enjoy from the EU, and it's like, yes, they're bringing that back. That's cool, and they're bringing it back, a little bit at a time. And
Spoil away, Nigel. Spoil away. Everybody, we're like recording this a month before it's going to be posted. Nothing you're saying today is going to ruin
Okay.
anybody's
And you assume anyone
experience.
other than my wife is actually going to watch this as a right.
Oh, well, the two things that spring instantly to mind are the fact that they brought back the cloning facility at Mount Tantis, which they had from the original Thrawn trilogy books.
Yes.
And the other thing is if you watch the Mandalorian stuff, like the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and bits of Rebels, they're bringing back little bits and pieces from Mandalorian culture that they had previously thrown out. Stuff that Karen Travis had written in, like language and script and cultural things that had previously been thrown out for the earlier Clone Wars episodes, and I'm really enjoying that.
We didn't meet during the Book of Boba Fett, did we?
No.
All the opportunities for Vespa jokes that we missed.
Yeah.
Mentioning that. Yeah, so Bill, you had to take a swig from your I assume your beer as I asked the question. So
Yeah,
what's your take on the state of Star Wars right now?
I mean, I'm happy with they're doing the Filoni movie, doing the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Those are both positive developments, I think. Um, Not sure about the Ray Jedi Academy movie. I mean, do you have that many fans who were asking for more sequel trilogy content that you got to put that out there? Um, so we'll see on that. Um, so, I mean, I don't even know. I know the Acolyte's coming out, but I don't know if any other TV series beyond that have been confirmed. Well, and or two.
Yeah. I feel like they've been really hush hush
And
too.
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. That's right. Skeleton Crew's coming. That's kind of a weird one. I don't know if that's going to be too much of a
Right.
kid movie or kid TV show. Uh, Feels a little bit like what is it, Henry Danger, where you have like the one adult who's over or uh, teaching all the kids who have powers how to have their powers, and uh, my one daughter watches that on Nickelodeon to this
That's it.
day, like, all the time. Um, and it has the same kind of feel to it, maybe, but who knows? They might take it in a more adult, more mature direction.
I mean, I
But
feel like they've been trying to play that a little bit with like Andor went there a little bit, right? And then I feel like what they've done with the MCU now with the Echo series, which I didn't watch, not out of protest, but because I set my the parental controls on my Disney Plus. And like, so like several weeks went by, I was like, I thought there was a new show that was supposed to come on. Why is it popping up? So I haven't watched that yet. But yeah, the kind of tiering of the kind of age groups for Star Wars that is kind of happening a bit here. Um, it's funny you say the thing about rating too, because I feel like the like on social media, I feel like there are like that's where things get ugly, right? There's like really diehard sequel fans versus the diehard original trilogy fans, and that gets all kind of yucky out there. Yeah. That
yeah,
Dan, how about you? How are you feeling about Star Wars in general now? What's the state
Um,
of Star Wars?
well, I'm looking forward to seeing Phantom Menace on the big screen again. They're bringing that back, so I'm very excited about that. I remember when that film first came out, it was not very well received, but over time, it's gained a lot of love and stuff like. Because I feel there's a lot of great stuff in that movie for us to enjoy, and I'm glad I'm going to be able to see it on the big screen again. So I'm looking forward to that. And I've enjoyed the TV series that we've had so far, and like I said, I'm trying to remain skeptical about the Ray movie and things like that. But there just seems to be so much hate out there for Star Wars and Disney and things like that, and that just kind of gets you down.
Yeah, I mean, there is like people who just hate like it's now it's Disney Star Wars, right? That's
Mhm.
kind of what you're. I've seen a lot of chatter about what you're talking about with the have the prequels gained love, but also like, or is it more that that age group has now aged up, right? Like, so for
Hmm.
the original trilogy crew, a lot of us were like babies when Star Wars came out, right? We were very
Hmm.
young, and so that we whether or not if we saw Star Wars as adults, would we react the same way, right? So, um, the generation that grew up with the prequels, whether or not they're always saying that in terms of a critical eye or a nostalgic eye, right? Obviously, the original trilogy is just good, right? That's clear. That's not nostalgia speaking. Um, right?
no,
But the prequels, no, I mean, I feel like it's funny because I'll see on social media people like with expressing skepticism about how bad the prequels were taken when they came out. But people were, I was started on Twitter. I was like finding the clip from Spaced where like Simon Pegg like burns the Star Wars stuff in a funeral pyre because he's so
Yeah.
frustrated with like the prequel fans, right? And I feel like for some reason people, it's like I don't know, it's like Disney. I'm blaming Disney again, but I feel like whatever the marketing is that just made people forget what that experience was, right?
whenever you put out the sequel trilogy that is just so awful, anything else looks so much better in comparison. So the prequels are like, oh, they weren't that bad. They were,
Right, by comparison. I mean,
yeah.
I think there's, I mean, something like the prequels, I felt like, I mean, there's critiques about the big, boring red letter media kind of covers that, like for the draggy parts, and then some of just kind of the strange choices that George Lucas made. But I don't think any of it broke. It didn't feel like it broke the original trilogy necessarily, right? Like there was weirdness with like R2D2 and C3PO not recognizing people and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, the sequels, we probably talked about this before, but I feel like the sequels for me, it was the loss of the happy ending and just Luke just being like a space hobo just was, I did not need that in my life at that point. That's totally subjective. That's totally me. But I did not need space hobo Luke, right? That's just not what I need at this age. Um, and I feel like the TV stuff, though, I'm trying to figure out which direction they're going with it because it's clear that the TV stuff is now trying to set up the sequels, right? Like it's
Mhm.
trying to, especially complaints about things like Exegol and Snoke and all these things. I feel like they're working really hard to sneak in setups for the sequels like retroactively.
Yeah.
Because have thoughts on that?
I mean, I would say that Filoni's a true believer, and he wants a cohesive story. So the only way to have a cohesive story is to have a bridge between Jedi and um, the Force Awakens that makes sense. So he's in that role. He's totally willing to put stuff forward that connects the two.
Yeah, that's an excellent point about the cohesion because as much as people like to diss the prequels, they were all done by George Lucas, and they all strung together and held together cohesively because he was behind them all. Whereas with the sequels, you had the first one, okay, we had the first one, and then the second one came along and said, no, no, everything from the first one was a lie. This is the real story. And then the third one came along and they say, no, no, everything from the second one was a lie.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we have to tell a whole trilogy's worth of story now in one movie. Whoops. And yeah, the cohesion is a vital, vital attribute that is very good to mention. Yeah.
And how much this thing must have been that it's like 10 years later, we're still talking about how frustrated we are with the sequels, right? So, yeah,
Can
but
you believe that the Phantom Menace is 25 years old?
I don't want to believe it. I'm in denial. Yeah. I mean, part of having this helmet on right now is you don't get to see the gray on my chin beard and hair, right? It's what's left of it. Oh my gosh. That can't be happening. Or even that, like I mean, the Force Awakens is 10 years old, right? 10 years old. Like that's just, I don't know where
9 years, yeah, 9.
that's not
Right.
possible. It's not possible. What about the state of collecting? Are we all still actively collecting? Are we taking a pause? I've been watching your struggles on Creature Cantina. Bill, do you dabble with some of the collecting and some of your victories as well? How's the state of collecting?
um, right now, there's um, the values of things have dropped quite a bit from where they were 3 to 5 years ago. You were seeing like Hakes auctions and prop store auctions where high graded carded figures would just get these obscene amounts. And now people are just trying to flip them and they're losing thousands of dollars because the prices have really come down a lot on stuff. Um, which for me, who's mostly interested in acquiring things, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, but for people who want to sell stuff, that's pretty bad for them.
Do you think that's like the COVID thing happened where people were spending money they didn't need to spend, or do you think just
Yeah, COVID, and now you have the inflation is so bad right now that people are really dipping into their extra funds to pay for food and rent and all that kind of stuff. It's just a tough time to have all that extra money sitting around.
it is hard to justify the high-end vintage figure when you have to buy eggs. Yeah.
Yeah, even like a 4 inch Kenner figure is now $17. It is just obscene. Did I say Kenner or did I say Hasbro?
You did say Kenner.
They've
Oh, I'm
been
sorry,
putting
a 4 inch Hasbro figure, like a black, not Black Series, the vintage collection
yeah,
figure
yeah.
is
Mhm.
$17 now.
It, I found a chopper in a Walmart and I was like, I love Chopper. I'm willing to spend like money on Chopper, but it was $17 and I'm like, no, I'm not willing to spend that much. I don't love Chopper that much, right?
Mm.
Yeah, no, that people complain about that all the time on social media. It's just like the cost of these figures that just kept skyrocketing.
Mm.
It's hard to, especially I guess if you're in it like back in the day, right? When you remember you could buy these things. Like Power of the Force 2 came out was like for what, $4, 3.99.
Yeah.
And now granted
Yep.
they're way more sophisticated toys than they were
Yeah.
back in Power of the Force 2. I mean, there's lots of articulation and there's lots of detail. But yeah, exactly. It's hard to justify that when you have other expenses.
Well, I remember in 2018 when they brought out the wave of the vintage collection with Silent Mare, the yak face, and those were about $13
Yeah.
at the time. You could find them in stores for about $13. And as you say, now they've gone up in price. But what's getting me is the selection because now it seems to be very heavy on the Trooper and Mandalorian repaints. Don't get me wrong, I like my Troopers, I like my Mandalorians, but it'd be nice to see more droids, more aliens, more mainline characters
Well,
than.
I mean, now it's mostly driven by the Disney Plus, though, right? Do you feel like most of the waves are Disney Plus waves, or am I misrepresenting that?
Well, I hadn't noticed that myself, but now that you mention it, there are a lot of Disney Plus show logos on
Right.
the TVC cards now, and I'm not that interested in those, so I kind of didn't pay attention to it. But that's a very good point.
Well, and I think when the vintage collection started, it was like the high end, right? Like you had your basic Saga line or whatever, and the vintage
Hmm.
collection was the fancy stuff. They even came in clamshells back then, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that the cards wouldn't get bent on the store shelf, right? Is that correct? I remember that right? Or am
And
I
they
having
were,
delusions?
yeah, no, you remember correctly, and they were $10 whole a piece.
Right. I remember that being like, I'm going to spend $10 and actually, well, I guess it looks really nice, right? This is the best version of Boba Fett we're going to get in a while. Don't
Mm.
do that. But now it's like the vintage is now the basic thing. Except they did just start the back to the 5 point articulation, 4-inch scale. But those are two
Right. Yeah.
bucks, right? Like those aren't exactly cheap, right?
Mm.
Um, Dan, what's your take on collecting now? I ask because you've got the product
Like I
placement
said, if I'm
behind
going to sell out the money, it's got to be something I really want, plus of a character I really want. Like Sideshow's putting out some great pieces, but they're putting out a lot of stuff about Ahsoka, and I didn't mind that show too bad. It was okay, but I would like if they did a piece on Balin or Shin, then I'd be in for that. But it's like they haven't released those two, and I don't know why.
you.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, yeah, well, this the stuff they're putting out, yeah, that's nice, but I'm not going to shell out $300-400, a couple $100, even with the payment plan. I'm not going to put that out every month.
Well, I know at least there's one other person on this call who took part in the Great Rosining. I don't know if they're calling it that out where you were, but what happened back in September, at least in some of the forums I'm on, they're calling it the Great Rosining because when we got just inundated with all that Hasbro content material in like the Ollies and the Ross and
Mhm.
things like that. How many of you jumped in on that? Did anyone incur major expenses there?
I got this.
I I got this, but this was just one of the many. I mean, I was buying stuff I had no interest in, but I was like, "What? That's $6? It used to be 35. I'll buy that." And now, I joke that when I come down to my basement office to get to work, it's like a Death Star trench run because I've just got all these unopened things I didn't like. I mean, what the heck? I've got to. Can I reach it? Switch on my screen. Like this isn't even Star Wars. This is a He-Man Stridor horse. I'm blurred out. I'm gonna unblur that for a second. Come on, blur. Don't blur my background. Yeah. So what do I need this for? I don't need this. I don't need one of these things, but it was um well $4.99 at Ross. This way,
Wow.
this
That's
way.
You read.
impressive.
Yeah. So like I don't get now this is and I've got like a bunch of these now sitting around my desk and I'm like, why do I have these things? I should probably just give them away or something like
You really don't need to blur your background. There's like nothing happening back there
that.
that you have to hide.
Oh, I'm on. Yeah, that's true. Um, but I think I actually this is a new camera, and before it was doing this widescreen thing, it was actually showing a shelf of action figures behind me, and I was like, I need to blur this for work because
Okay.
Mm.
they don't need to see
You're
that.
allowed to show your action figures here if you want to
Here, it's
turn
yeah.
your chair
I
and
should have turned it off before I even got there. Although, I turn my chair, it's mostly just you know my collection of Fisher Price castles. I need, I need play sets, don't I? Yeah, so I got slammed with that because I mean, and they were showing up with stuff. They had Star Wars Black figures, JoJo Classified, the vintage trilogy, vintage collection figures were showing up for like $4. Like I got the Incinerator Trooper with Grogu for I think 4.99.
oh
I
wow.
Wow.
got two of them, and somebody found the SDCC exclusive set of the hallway on the cruiser, right?
Mm.
So it's got Grogu and the Mandalorian and a Dark Trooper and Moff Gideon, and they found it was like ridiculously cheap. So it was a dark time for me. I
Hmm.
was sitting at Ross like several times a week after dropping off my children at work. I would just like,
Yeah.
swing by Ross. And then there were other people who were clearly there. It got very competitive. But yeah, that was a thing. They were calling it the Rosening because Ross had so many things to get there.
No, we didn't have any of those down where we lived, and yeah, so I heard nothing about that whatsoever.
Ah, you missed it. It was a frenzy. I have not seen a feeding
Mm.
frenzy like that. can't even think of when something similar like that happened. I mean, you had like the midnight runs for movies and stuff like this, but
Yeah.
just from September through Christmas, it was madness. Now my helmet's steaming out. This is my $30 helmet. I bought this at Ollie's for
My
30.
cockpit's foggy.
What was that?
My cockpit's foggy. Buzz droids.
I am not completing the mission, guys. I'm totally gonna get shot down any second by a TIE fighter. Um, yeah, so anybody pick up anything cool lately?
I did at work. We've got these little Safari Limited things, these tiny, tiny little animals. They're supposed to be good luck charms for under $1, but I did manage to get this tiny, tiny little lizard.
Oh,
And it's Star Wars related because I'm going to stick it on my Chief Chirpa figure because he had a little pet lizard that everyone forgets about, and this is going to be his pet lizard.
there you go.
Nice.
Anybody else see anything cool lately?
Well, if
Mm,
you've read CreatureCantina.com lately, I picked up that Zetka uh, Lose 3PO.
The little one.
Yes,
Nice.
I can grab that if you want me to. It's right on the shelf over there.
There you go.
Give me a second. Try not to trip on anything with my helmet.
No, this is just Bill's, yeah, this is just Bill's excuse to kind of like pivot the camera to show off his collection.
So this is the Zetka carded figure that I got at Celebration 3 from Tom Derby at Cloud City Collectibles. That's when I first learned it existed. They produced 5 different ones. 3 of them were silver, that are all pretty common. 2 of them were gold. Those are much more rare. The 3PO and the Land Speeder are the 2 gold rare ones. So I've had a carded one for a very long time, but I've never been able to track down a loose one until I found one on eBay a couple weeks ago from a seller in Japan that had to buy it now. I made a best offer. He accepted the best offer, and now it's mine.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Congratulations.
yeah,
Tiny little
congrats.
die cast metal figure.
That's totally cool. Yeah. And what does it feel like to have it? How's it feel? Does it feel heavy?
It is very heavy, yeah.
Because diecast? Yeah.
It's die cast solid metal, so it's heavier than you would expect it to be,
Gotcha.
but it's awesome.
Now you've been able to get all of them?
No, I've only worried about the 3PO.
Oh, okay.
Now, is this a good moment to mention to Bill that actually I forgot to hit record again? It's your third
I
take.
saw the little alert at the bottom say it's recording.
Faster with more emotion. Awesome. Super cool. Yeah, cool beans, cool beans. And I see Nigel, you're sporting the bowling
The
shirt.
official
Bowling
Creature
shirt.
Cantina bowling shirt. Yes,
There
indeed.
we go. Yeah.
You're so good to us, Bill. You give us all these free things.
Yeah. Great
Yeah,
stuff.
3 things over the course of 20 years.
More than I get from a lot of places.
But the
Awesome.
friendship is priceless.
That's
Exactly.
true. That is totally true.
Plus, the beer recommendations are pretty good.
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
I
I'm
was really
glad
disappointed that alligator one is not available.
the Andy Gator. Yeah, that was a surprisingly good. I can't find it up here in Ohio either. So
Well, that's a crock.
no, the snouts are different.
Oh. Oh, that's a tale for another time.
Do you work for scale?
Yes, exactly. Now I got to go reptile the bathroom.
Oh,
This I said was the coolest thing I picked up lately. And this is the Creature Cantina Tunisia patch. You, whoever watching this, probably don't have one, unless you're like one of like 5 other people. And I
There
do.
were only 10 made total.
Yeah. So chances are, and like 4 of them are on this call, right? So and
Yeah.
I didn't have to go to Tunisia to get it. So this was an awesome, awesome pickup. Well,
In
actually,
fact, it's so famous, they actually made a TV show on it called The Bad Patch.
see, now you're gonna have to think about
Oh.
that. For actually, that actually needs to be made at some point, actually. But yeah, thank you, Bill, for that. That was super cool.
Yeah.
and that's the coolest thing I have
Yeah. Very
there.
cool.
Yeah. So if you came here expecting repaired kind of podcast, we're not like those people.
Ugh, that was riding on the bridge of my nose.
Yeah, right. I feel like I feel it right there.
Oh man, I got a big dent. I don't know if you can see it on the camera.
Wow.
I think
Yeah,
that's a class action lawsuit right there we have
Yeah.
against
Uh,
whoever's making
got
these.
to get the Dremel out and carve out the
It is
nose area.
it is
Out
not
of your nose?
right. That's what a diehard Star Wars fan would do. They would have reconstructive surgery on their nose so they could wear the Star Wars.
Because you can't damage the helmet; it'll lose all its value.
Oh, yeah,
oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, those were not comfortable. Not comfortable helmets. But yeah. Cool. Other things going on? Any cool Star Wars things that you've seen, like unofficial?
No, not really.
Oh,
Like I said, we've got some new stock in at the toy store.
Oh, you're plugging the toy store?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mention it, but
We're allowed to do
we've
that? We can do that. Can't we do that? We can do that, right?
Oh yeah,
okay. Sir Troy's Toy Kingdom of northeastern Ohio, biggest independent toy store in the United States now. We've been getting a bunch of new Star Wars stuff in, including the vintage collection, Jabba the Hutt throne set, um, stuff like that there. So yeah, good
Is
stuff.
it let me see. Is it this thing?
That's the one. Yep, that's the
Yeah.
one.
Are there pictures of you on here?
No, there aren't. I only joined about a month ago, but I'm working at the Belden Village location. It's the biggest of the three.
I'll have a 25% off sale. Ravensburger puzzles.
Yeah,
yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So that's where you're hanging out. Can you shop online? What can you shop online?
you can shop online. Yeah.
Should we order something right now?
Look for C-3PO stuff.
Yeah. I was really into Playmobil for a while as an adult collector, and then kind of checked out. You get a black for 26.98.
Mm.
Not the best. Hey, there's some Lego roses there though.
You still
I
have
heard
some
they
of those
sold out.
now?
Yeah.
so those are Legoses.
Okay, like I mean they'll never die,
Yeah.
but they're hard to put together. It's kind of like a relationship, right?
Yeah. Give
Metaphor.
Yeah.
them to the blockhead in your life.
Do they need somebody doing a copywriting for the website? Because I think
I
Dan.
don't know if they need someone for a radio spot, I'll happily do it. But
I was just thinking
See,
that.
I made a recommendation to Nigel when he started working there that he should start a TikTok where he just goes around the store
yeah,
and identifies an item and talks about it and just do little
Yeah,
30-second TikTok clips
yeah, you
yeah.
should.
and he could be famous.
I've got to. I still have. I've had a couple of suggestions. I've got to talk to the managers about before I clear it. But considering the owner pops in several times a week, that might be possible to pass up the chain. So we'll see how it goes.
Gotcha. I'm gonna stop sharing. So this was Troy, Sir Troy. Is he a real knight?
No,
He's not a real knight, no.
no,
No, he works days, so he can't.
Does he at least does he at least have a British accent?
no.
Well, see, these are good. You have all kinds of things you can leverage for Sir Troy. Nigel, maybe you could be like, is there an actual Sir Troy?
The owner is called Troy. I've met him several times. Nice guy, but yeah. So he signs my paycheck, so I don't give him crap about the Sir thing.
Okay, so we're not, and he wouldn't be interested in like having you like be a kind of mascot Sir Troy. Like you could stand in at Sir
No,
Troy.
You have
probably not.
the British accent. You could play off a legitimate sir.
Yeah.
Probably, probably.
Would you have
I
you
could
dressed as a
try.
Trojan to do it? The ancient Trojans.
Yeah,
Troy.
I know, I know,
I
I know.
know.
I
The look you gave, I didn't know where you were going with that.
oh, Troy, as in Troy. Yeah, I was like, hang on, I was trying to make a connection there. I thought, well, I mean, if I,
Oh boy.
if
I
I,
wasn't even trying. I wasn't even, that's not even, I am.
He should marry Helena Bonham Carter, then he's Helena Troy.
Sorry, my brain is a bit fried after today's events. We went out to get some Korean hot pot, and
Ooh, nice.
oh, it was delicious, but I so darn full. I've got all the blood is rushing to my stomach to help digest stuff, and I'm a bit slow on the uptake.
Gotcha. Well, we're working pretty hard basically to get you fired from your job. So
Please don't. I like
don't,
it.
don't fire Nigel because of us. Yeah. So that's the Toy Story. Cool beans, cool.
Our charity has started where the Pennsylvania Star Wars Collecting Society charity has submitted a design for our 2024 coin. So hopefully that gets approved by Lucasfilm and we'll be able to have that out by early May.
Nice.
Awesome. Is it the same charity as usual, or are you switching up charities?
It's always a different charity.
Okay, gotcha.
This new one's Foster Love Project, which is a foster care support charity.
Gotcha. It's always hard to think what anyone can then say to follow up. What's your next plan? Like helping foster children, and then it's like, I'm saving up to buy an action figure. No, that's super awesome. That's super awesome way to direct the fandoms towards something other than just fighting on Twitter about whether or not you like the sequels and stuff. Dan, any Star Warsy plans?
Well, C2E2 is coming up in a couple months. I'm waiting. Right now, the guest list isn't too much. There's no big Star Wars names there. I'm hoping that we get somebody. There was a Days of the Dead convention that's going to be coming up in a month or so. They did announce Ray Park, but then they pulled it back, and he's actually going to be there in November. So,
See, if somebody else were saying that, you would have a Darth Maul pun for it.
well, that would be marvelous.
See, I just had to give him the alley-oop. Like,
there you go. See, shoot it good.
Steel City Con's coming up in Pittsburgh, and they got the actress who plays Sabine in Ahsoka coming.
Oh.
She was very nice.
I thought the Ahsoka show. I enjoyed the Ahsoka show for the most part. I think that it was. I feel like it was a little slow. Maybe it was intended to be slow. Like I felt like it was better when Ahsoka was being fun Ahsoka. I don't know if that's like a problematic thing to say or not, but I felt like she become at some point. I felt like between like the Mandalorian and the new thing, she became like stoic Ahsoka, and I wasn't entirely sure why she became stoic Ahsoka, but then she kind of became fun kind of Ahsoka again.
Yeah.
There's
I don't
only
know.
so far. Sorry, I was just going to say there's only so far you can go with crossing your eyes and staring silently off into the middle distance before it stops being gripping television.
We started like counting the number of times the subtitles said like size. Right? It was like you could make a drinking game. Like how many times that happened in the first four episodes. There was a lot of that. Yeah.
See, I wonder if it's part of Filoni's transition from animated to live action because so much of the delivery was so stilted and so slow in the first couple episodes that it was almost hard to watch some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that might be because when you're coming from an animated background, there's so much other stuff happening in animated that you have to be reserved with your characters. Whereas if you just have the characters standing there talking to each other, that's not something you typically do a lot in anime or animated stuff.
But I feel like he's been at it for a while though, right? I mean, it's not like this was his first time at bat, but I kind of felt like part of it was because there was so much darned exposition because I'm having a hard time thinking of another show that's had so much happen in between, right? Like the whole I know people were complaining about like should anyone be able to use force powers, right? That's like the big question people were having. But for me, whether or not it's like everyone should have force powers, I felt like there was really not a whole lot to make you think Sabine was going to take a path like that, right? Like I
Mm.
don't think it ever explicitly came up. People are like really stretching for like, here's a line Kanan said that talks about everyone having the force or something like that. But it wasn't
Yeah.
that didn't I think feel like it didn't precipitate her going in this direction. So I felt like you were coming in the beginning of Ahsoka, I really felt like Rip Van Winkle, right? I felt like I'd missed
Yeah.
an entire series must have happened in between. That was when it was PG-13, so Disney Plus wasn't showing it to me or something. I had no idea what happened. But that seemed very strange that this whole other story arc came and went, and there was like no clue to it. I don't even remember Sabine and Ahsoka being that like having interacting that much, but maybe I'm not remembering the show as well. But
Mm.
the idea that
I think you're correct in your assessment. They Ahsoka was barely in it and barely interacted with the Rebels crew.
Yeah, yeah, right. So it was like really kind of her and Ezra. So
Yeah.
to find out suddenly that Sabine had burned her Padawan, and I also just felt like the other thing was the whole Jedi thing, right? Like it was pretty clear, not a Jedi, not a Jedi, not a Jedi. Oh, I guess I'm a Jedi, right? And I felt like again there was like a whole story arc that we missed in between that it was kind of abrupt, right? I felt it was a really abrupt way to start things. So I felt like
Mm.
it was almost like different characters, right? That we're kind of seeing there. But it picked up, and I thought Chopper was fun. I thought David Tennant was fun. Like that they had it was fun. I think once it got fun, it felt like a Star Warsy type thing. It was sort of a Star Wars project, but it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you mean. And I mean, David Tennant is a joy in pretty much everything he's in
Yeah.
for a start. But yeah, when they started bringing in more characters, it definitely started to pick up.
Yeah. I'm just imagining like so if anyone ever watches this and wants to kind of critique us, like that's the soundbite. That's like, one of the stupidest critics ever in the world. I like things that are fun. I do smart analysis. Give me fun. That was a funny robot. But I think the thing is, I mean, the spirit of it, right? The adventure stuff, the adventure roots of Star Wars. Like, thought Andor was great with the prison scene. That was really cool. But it didn't feel Star Wars though. It felt like an episode of the Twilight Zone, right? Like the episode with the clones, the last season of the Mandalorian, where you had Dr. Pershing. That didn't feel like a Star Wars episode. It felt like a Twilight Zone episode with like a Star Wars kind of veneer over it, at least to me, right? Like I felt
Yeah,
like,
it felt kind of like they were trying to set up a spin-off. Like
yeah,
they're like Heather and I started watching Married with Children all the way through about a year ago, and we started watching. All of a sudden, there was a spin-off series that they did an entire episode about Kelly's boyfriend, played by Matt LeBlanc, in a role everyone's forgotten about, and it was just that. It was like I tuned in to watch the Bundys. What's this stuff?
right, right. I mean, that is really like I just tweeted about this. Like I feel like I half what I say. I'm just repeating things I saw on Twitter, right? But the idea of a Star Wars anthology show, right? Like I keep bringing
Yeah,
this up. Like would they be better off just having Star Wars, the TV series, and you tune in, and it's 3 episodes for a story arc, 3 episodes for a story arc, or 1 episode for a story arc, and it's the anthology, and they can go prequel, they can go sequel, they can go original trilogy, they can go wherever they want.
yeah,
Kind of like the Visions things they're doing, right? Like,
yeah,
and just tell those stories. Because when you call it The Mandalorian and you've had the seasons with like, Din Djarin and Grogu, you're the whole time exactly what you're saying. My wife and I were watching the episode, we're like, and what's happening to Grogu? Is he okay? Right? Because it's called The Mandalorian, so we're expecting Grogu at some point. And then when we don't get Grogu, we're like, and Grogu now? We'll do are we gonna cut? We're gonna cut to Grogu? No, we're not cutting to Grogu. We're just okay, we're gonna stick with this then, right? So I think an anthology series. I like Tales. Did you watch Tales of the Jedi? Did you guys watch Tales of the Jedi?
Yeah.
The animated?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was fun. That worked.
But it got me thinking about the Tales of Jabba's Palace, Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina. That would be those short story anthologies. That would be a cool thing to see on screen.
Yeah.
Time to make your last points
Last
before we get cut
points.
off again.
What are our last points about Star Wars? So it seemed like we started off, y'all were feeling hopeful about TV Star Wars, reserved hope for particular movie projects, and we seem a little skittish about Ray. Can they save Ray for you guys? Or I mean, can they save it? What would they have to do to save the sequel trilogy for y'all?
I wouldn't mind if they refilmed the whole thing with the same actors but a better script.
I should have said that you can't do that. You have 4 minutes left. You have 4 minutes to figure out how would you save it without rewriting it or without time travel or anything like that. So you have like a 30-second soundbite of how would you save those characters? Not just gave up. It's nothing can be done.
There was the whole theory that they would have the world between worlds
Yeah.
erase the entire sequel trilogy from canon.
I can't. I think they'll just reboot things before they kind of. That just
Yeah,
seems like it would. It seems like it would be
I
offending many people. Yeah.
with with the Last Jedi, I think it's unsalvageable.
Hmm.
It was just totally threw everything into chaos, and
Right. How sad and neurotic are we as Star Wars fans that it keeps coming back to so many words over the last Jedi? But yeah, there's just I always keep imagining ways it could have been different and stuff like that. And even on paper, it doesn't sound necessarily such a bad thing, I feel like, but the execution was just it didn't work. We didn't want to see
Mm.
Luke like that. I keep my fantasy is that they'll do a Force afterlife. That's how for me that's how they salvage it. Do a movie set with parts of it in the Force afterlife, and there's some kind of catastrophe happening at that next astral plane, right? And so then you get a movie with Force Ghost Luke and Force Ghost Mace Windu. You can bring all the dead Jedi together, and they've got to fight some kind.
Mace Windu's not dead. Didn't you see
He
Sam
has to die
Jackson's?
eventually. Well, he could still be alive. He could be attuned to
Yeah.
that. But find some way of bring all these actors from the different generations together, and there's some kind of supernatural thing that
Didn't
they.
they film that for Rise of Skywalker, and it didn't? It got cut.
I don't
Well,
know.
all the warnings from the Goat Dead Jedi. Yeah.
But I want
Yeah,
them.
they actually filmed the actual actors like as
Oh,
Force Ghosts for that scene, but they decided to cut it.
because they hate us.
Eh,
I'm never getting a job at Disney. That's not going to happen. This is why every time I've sent like a job application to some kind of Disney owned thing, it's probably been like they pull up one of these videos, like not that guy. Did you see the video he posted? I was one of the four people.
Why? That's why
Yeah,
you post under
assumed
Tressa
did.
instead of your
Right,
real name.
right. Yeah. Yeah, well, I think next time so Steve never made it. So if next time he doesn't make it, we should get ChatGPT to post as him and figure out what he would say. Do some inputs there. Well, cool. Well,
That's really really risky
I'm
to
imagining.
ask ChatGTP to impersonate Steve.
it might run its red flags pretty quick. Gotcha. Cool. Well, it was great talking to you. Even if I'm going to try to edit this as best I can to make something watchable out of at least parts of it. And if it's not, I think we have some stuff we'll use. If not, I'll just
Yeah.
post me staring at the screen with my helmet. On that for 45 minutes. And that'll be our kind of New Year's joke. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. I feel like it was way too
Yeah,
long in between things.
absolutely. We need to do this more often. I think at least 4 times a year.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Uh,
maybe with the next show that comes out, we at least should try to do a couple reactions here and there.
Yeah,
the
sounds
next one,
good.
Was that?
the next one's the Acolyte, right? They announced
I
the
think
date
that's the
for
next
that.
one. I mean, technically, Bad Batch
They
is
did, yeah.
now. I'm not sure if Bad Batch is worth it. Like, I don't know what we have a whole lot to say about it. And yeah, that owns. But yeah, we should try to do this more because I think it's just good to see you all and hear how you're all
Yeah,
doing.
Right back at you. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
absolutely.
All right. Anything else? Got less than a minute.
Say something funny, quick.
Funny, quick.
Something funny, quick.
Okay. Yeah, I screwed that up, didn't I?
All right. Well, you guys have a great night.
Yep, take it
Rest
easy.
of the
Thanks.
weekend.
See ya.
May the force be with you.
So I guess we lost the footage of me showing off the Zetka 3PO when you didn't hit record, right? Was that first
That was
section?
part of the first part.
That was pre. Do you want to show that again?
Yeah, pre-intermission.
No, okay.
This is going to be so confusing because if I don't cut out the references to us having not recorded things, I have to figure out how to do this to make it the most awkward, most bizarre way of addressing my own flub, where I forgot to hit record when we got booted off Zoom because I'm too cheap to pay for it. Because who uses Zoom anymore? Does anybody use Zoom anymore? We're all using like Teams and stuff now where I work. But anyway, Bill, I heard you had quite an interesting new C3PO acquisition that you wanted to
Yeah.
show off.
For the second time.
Everyone act really surprised. And
Creature Cantina sucks.